Hi everyone, my name is Oliver. Welcome to French Riviera Dreamers, our first podcast in this series that we'll have on this channel, which will take us through a journey of interviewing various clients and friends of ours that have moved from abroad, from North America and other countries, to Nice, France. And on today's podcast, we have Scott and Lauren, who are joining us today, and they're going to be sharing their experiences in moving here recently, in the last 2 months, on the French Riviera in Nice. And we hope that you'll enjoy the podcast. So I'll get Lauren, you introduce yourself, and then Scott.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Lauren Lavelle. I am a full-time entrepreneur online, and I'm originally from LA and been living in Philadelphia for the past decade, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for coming.
My name is Scott. I am also from Philadelphia, and I am a graphic artist and event organizer.
Thank you both for coming and joining me today on this premiere podcast. So today I just want to give the audience a sneak preview of what you can expect to see with some of these videos and podcasts that we'll be doing continually. So we're happy to be hosted in the FRH studio here on the Promenade des Anglais. And our host, Fabrizio Carbonati, has graciously allowed us to use his space here to record the video and the podcast. So thank you for FRH. I mean, the podcast and video today will be about Scott and Lauren, their experience coming to the French Riviera, and how they've been able to integrate. And we hope that you'll be able to get some good value out of this series of podcasts. So why don't we start with just a bit more in-depth introduction of what made you guys, your story, your background, and how you came to decide on choosing Nice.
I would say our interest in France started prior to our move. Obviously, we had done some international travel, very brief, in 2023. And then we liked Nice so much. It was actually our only, it was our shortest stop on our international trip. And we liked it so much we came back the following summer, stayed for about 2 weeks that time. Lauren stayed a little bit longer. And we just really liked the culture, the location, obviously. And we were intrigued by it enough to want to take the plunge.
How long did you spend on your first trip?
First trip, I believe our total amount was 14 days, and I think we only stayed in Nice like 2 nights.
2 nights only. So we got here and immediately started walking around and looking at everything, and I was really sad to leave the first time.
Yeah. Did you get to experience any other cities along the Riviera? Or?
Not necessarily along the Riviera exclusively, but kind of in a diagonal line. We went from Madrid to Barcelona to Nice,
very nice. Yes.
To Florence, and then we ended in Venice.
Awesome.
So out of all those cities, we like Nice best.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yep. And Lauren, yourself, how?
Yeah, my first time in France, I was about 15 or 16 years old, and I did a trip that included Florence and Venice, and then we came over. We did Paris and Nice and Monaco, specifically going to like the Museum of Oceanography, nerd stuff. But I really was super impressed by it. I'm originally from Southern California, so I'm used to a beachy outdoor lifestyle, and so that was pretty interesting to me. And then when we came in 2023, I was sad that we only had a few days here, and I wanted to come back. And then when we did come back, I felt really comfortable here, not just. Of course, we were tourists. I still kind of feel like there's maybe an air of touristiness since we haven't been here that long, but I felt very comfortable in this space and navigating Nice, so it seemed like a good choice for us.
Now, when you guys first came back in 22, was it, or 23?
23.
23.
Yeah.
Did you already have some idea in the back of your head that, hey, we can make this our home in the future, or was it too early at that time?
Personally, I was just looking to get out of the United States to see what
Even
else
even
is out
back
there.
in 2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just I'd never been out of the country before.
Right,
So,
yeah.
and I definitely hadn't. Nice wasn't on my radar at all. So
Right.
it was interesting to go to a place that I had not only not been to, but I'd not really known too much about, and then
Right.
ended up really enjoying it.
Nice.
It was definitely on my radar, and I left here saying that I was going to buy a condo here.
Yeah.
I said something like, oh, in 10 years or whatever, this is going to be where I have my second house. And Scott was like, okay. And I said, yeah, just, that's what I'm working towards. So when we did come back last year, that was something that we were thinking about. And yeah, it's been on my mind for a while, where I was like, okay, yeah, this feels like a place I could spend more time.
Yeah. Now, when you first came here, both of you were working on your own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have the idea of, well, we could do this remotely. We could do this from France and still be able to run
Yeah.
two businesses in the U.S.?
I mean, I think not necessarily for the first trip, but for the second trip, that was definitely part of our intention. I think we.
Me pushing Scott because he was not actually fully remote at that point.
Right.
Okay.
I had just stopped teaching middle school art for a school district outside of Philadelphia. I was a middle school art teacher for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so working for myself was fairly new. And I went from that into doing screen printing and eventually what I'm doing now, which is graphic design and more event hosting. And I think during our second trip, I was really scouting for the event hosting aspect because there are so many great venues here. Again, the scenery is great, the weather's great. It really lends itself to having an outdoor experience. Gathering.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's great. What? So after you guys visited the second time, did that kind of cement in your minds that this was the right place, or did you still do some scouting along the coast or in other cities before you chose Nice as your destination?
I think I was pretty 10 toes down on wanting to come here, but there were so many reasons to come here because it felt like such a good location with having an international airport, with having good train transportation access. So it felt like even if we did come here and find something that we really enjoyed, like above and beyond what we're enjoying here, we would have access to it. So I think that's what really cemented it for me, of being like, let's go somewhere where we know we can get to other places. As he said, we haven't traveled a ton, and it's going to make it a lot easier being somewhere where we have accessible travel.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Nice is that, I mean, it's the second biggest airport in France, and you have something like 200 different destinations from the Nice airport, which is not a big airport.
It's very...
Because when you come in, you think, okay, this is going to be a big airport, but no, it's...
Very misleading. For
misleading,
the
right?
size, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's really well connected, and the fact that it's only, I mean, from where we are here, I mean, we could literally walk to the airport. It's I think it's like a 20-minute walk from us here, but even from downtown Nice, you're extremely close and well connected. So I think you guys made the right decisions.
Yeah, we're happy with it so far.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the process to move to France and how that went, because I know that's a story in itself. So.
Yes, I think that the process is going to be different for everyone, obviously, and there's debate on like remote work and what kind of visa you get, of course, because we're planning on staying here at least a year, hopefully longer, because we packed up all of our stuff. But
Sorry, just to interrupt you. Sorry about that. But you've applied for a 1 year. What kind of visa did you apply for?
Profession liberal visa and
Okay.
yeah, an entrepreneur visa.
Entrepreneur visa.
Entrepreneur.
Okay.
Yeah, so that allows us to specifically run businesses in France as French businesses, which is different than if we were running American businesses and having a year-long visitor visa. So those are two different visas. So we applied for those, which felt like probably the longest group project we've ever worked on and one of the most frantic. Scott said that we printed 300 pieces of paper. But and
He's probably right.
it's conservatively.
yeah, we showed up at the place and they were like,
Yeah.
okay, these people are serious.
We were over prepared for sure.
Yeah, and that happened at the end of February of 2025. Yeah.
This year. Wow. Okay.
And
February 28th was when we
submitted everything February 28th, and March 5th our passports came back.
Okay. It seems very quick. So you started the process
I would say we started talking about the process around like November, December of 2024.
right.
Yeah, but we had so much to wrap up with our own businesses, we weren't really working on it.
But were you starting to gather documents in November of 24 or?
Yeah, but we really started, I would say, beginning of January.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, January.
So really in a month,
Yeah.
you were able to get everything together and
Yep, about 6
so it is possible. There you go. For those of you that are interested in
It's possible, but
moving that quickly, it is definitely possible. Yeah. Now
Yeah,
we
and
have.
there's many factors, I would say. Obviously, we don't have children.
Yes.
We had.
we do have cats.
We do have cats. We had a
Cats,
very helpful community back in Philadelphia that, once we got our passports, allowed us to sell everything in our house and help donate things. And
Yes.
yeah, March was probably, we thought February was pretty chaotic, but I think we would both agree that March was even more so.
Yeah, the date from opening and getting our visas was March 5th, and the day we left Philadelphia was April 1st. So we we did not have a ton of time in between there. So it was a really expedited process, but I think the pre-planning, knowing what we already had existing businesses, so we weren't making up a business. We were making up a business plan for France, but we weren't making up a business. So I think that lent itself to being a little bit easier.
Now the process being as expedited as it was that something that you were planning for, or it just happened to be that way? Like, was it something that you were planning that, okay, we're gonna have this process only take 3 months and then we want to move, or were you thinking that it was going to take longer?
I personally thought it was going to take longer.
Okay.
I think Lauren had the deadline in her mind of mid-March. And
Okay, so you put a deadline for yourself. Okay.
And I think that was good, actually, because it allowed us to do a lot of things in such a short period of time that maybe we would have put off, or we would have said, oh, we can get to it the next day or the next day. But when you have a definitive
Every single
deadline,
day was something.
every day, yeah, we were like tackling one major thing and then like 3 or 4 tertiary things every single day for that entire period. So I would say it helped. We're here, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, if we had done it differently, maybe either planning earlier or giving ourselves more time.
Right.
But, I think also it definitely helped our motivation.
Yeah, I think the seasonality of this location played a huge role for me, because I felt like if we didn't get here by when we got here, which was April, then we would have a really hard time finding a place. Yeah. We would be competing, with a lot of tourism. We wouldn't have time to get settled. Exactly. We're barely settled now, but I mean, we wouldn't have this much time to get settled. And I think that was really important to me, because otherwise it was going to have to be on the other side of that at the end of the year. And I just wanted to do that before then.
Yeah.
I would say also, like, knowing that, that's really the large reason that she reached out to FRH. And, I think we definitely would have had a significantly harder time getting a place now, even just, doing basic things with deliveries and internet connections. But having that extra help, be like a liaison and then also like an advocate, definitely helped.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yes. Thank you. No, that's great. That's really great. Okay, so I think we covered this question, but you started planning basically only a few months before you got the visa. So.
I mean, the plans were in our heart, but they were not on paper.
Yeah, I mean, you already had the intention of moving abroad. You had already been here a couple of times, so you were kind of set on the place. The visa itself, that only took maybe a month, right? By the time, you submitted it in February, you said?
February 28th.
February 28th,
And we heard back March 5th.
It was about
February, wow, okay.
Less than a week.
That's really quick.
Yeah, we've done our fair amount of online research. Yeah. And
lots
also
of sleuthing.
Lots of anecdotal stuff, some stuff that was more like formulaic, but we were still surprised, less than a week. And, we drove to our nearest visa processing area where the
Right.
DC was, which was Washington, DC.
Right.
So we drove there and back. That was a trip, printing all the documents that we could the night before.
Did you have an interview with somebody there?
Yeah, so they take all of your stuff, but they don't really like interview you. They have a list.
Right.
And they don't really tell you yes or no. They tell you no if they don't need it, but they don't tell you, sufficient or there
The
were
quality of the documents isn't really.
yeah, there were a couple people having breakdowns in there
Really?
while we were there because they were not prepared. So we left and we still had documents in hand because they were like, we don't need that. We don't need that. But
Okay.
we had as much as we possibly could with us.
Oh, that's great. So they didn't request any additional documents? You had everything that...
No, and that
They
was
asked for?
that was another fear of ours. Was like, if that happens, it's going to delay our timeline. And by that point, the other thing with the visa process,
Right.
they require you to have a lot of things purchased ahead of time, such
Mm-hmm.
as your tickets for your flight.
Right.
Which at that point, if we'd gotten a no, could
Yes.
have potentially delayed things a little bit. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it all worked out is.
It was going to work out.
It's still, we put a lot of work into it. I'm not
You did.
surprised, but it definitely is still like shocking, the timeline.
Right. And did you guys document this process?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
I mean, he feels like a lot. We documented a lot of our like house clearing out. We did document going into.
You put it on your channel.
Not yet.
okay.
Yeah, it's
So we'll link to that channel,
yeah,
obviously.
rolling out slowly. We're gonna start with the easy stuff and then work our way back. But there were so many things like additionally with the pets, with dealing with our house. So I think there is documentation for sure and written documentation and between our friends and everything like that because it was so expedited. I don't want to say it was rushed because it didn't feel rushed. It felt like we had a plan.
Was it I mean, it must have been a bit stressful, I imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I think we were fairly confident in our ability to do it, and
Right.
the fact that we were both working towards it together. It wasn't like I was doing it while she was doing
Right.
something. Like we were both working on it together.
Exactly.
And that, like she said, as far as like a group project goes, it was like a very intense, like first major group project. She has her business, I have mine, but to work together towards something like this that on the scale.
I mean, not our first major group project. We did pay off all of our student loans together. But
Yeah, that's great. Wow. I mean, that could be a video in itself, right?
yeah, that was the longer term group project. This was like it's due. we are going to go. So I think it was stressful. I think I was less stressed than Scott.
Did your family and friends help with the stress, or were they in agreement and respected the decision for you guys to move out, or?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, everybody understood why we would
Right.
want to, based on what we told them about Nice and
Right.
given certain circumstances elsewhere. But there were certain people that I specifically went to for certain things, like regarding renting out our house since we're going to be away for a year, and like I said earlier, when we were donating different things from our house when we were trying to clear out,
Right.
definitely. Yeah, certain people were helpful in instrumental ways for particular things.
So most of them supported your idea of moving, and
yeah, absolutely.
I was most nervous to tell my aunt because she's like my number one parent figure, and I was like, oh no, I hope she's not sad. But she already lives on the West Coast, so we were already separated by time zones and by an entire country. So I'm like, well, this is just a good excuse for you to plan a really nice vacation and come to see me. So once she was on board, I was like, well, I can do anything now.
Oh, perfect. That's great. I'm sure you guys already have people wanting to visit.
We already have people planned. Like I got a message from my cousin today. She found a dog sitter and she's ready to go.
Wow, that's awesome. I don't know if we mentioned it, but you've only been here for how long now in Nice?
About a month and 3 weeks.
Yeah, 7 weeks. Yeah.
Wow, less than 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been very quick.
Yeah.
How has your experience been after you made the move? You did the packing and everything. Coming here, how has that experience been for you so far?
Yeah. I definitely thought there would be a bigger deflate and letdown period where we had those moments of, oh my gosh, what have we done? But that has not happened. I think we got here and we got moving so quickly with you. We got moving so quickly with all of the things. And it really felt like that planning that we did panned out.
Yeah.
We've also had a really warm reception here from people. We don't have any friends yet. I mean, they're our
we're
friends.
friends. Yeah.
But we don't
We're still building our network.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
still building those networks. But even in our daily interactions with
Yeah.
folks, people have been super warm and receptive. I think that also comes from us trying to speak really bad French to people, and they're like, "Oh no, we will help you." But I think. My personal experience, it hasn't been as stressful as I thought it was going to be. There have been periods of stress, but I don't think that's any different than moving anywhere at all. Moving at all.
Yeah, I think it's just figuring out different systems. Like, we haven't used the post office yet.
We're
That's
on
something that
that.
we're looking
Yep.
forward to, because then, we'll be able to send packages, we've received packages so far. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like learning how things are done here, as opposed to, crumbling and being upset about things not going your way because it's not the exact same way as where you're from.
Yeah, it's nice to have people, and the great thing about Nice is that there's a really good amount of expats here. So you were able to reach out on various Facebook groups, and you were able to reach out to us, obviously, to get help. But I think that's one of the big differences between other parts of France, is that Nice is very welcoming. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's very welcoming. And we've only been here, myself, I've only been here for a year. So it's very welcoming to expats, and people tend to be a bit more warm when you don't speak French, and you go up and try to explain yourself in French, or try to speak French, and then you end up speaking in English, and then they understand. So how's that been for you? It's been...
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would say a lot of the people who are from here who say that they don't speak English at least understand enough that we can communicate. I speak very little French, but I feel like I understand it a little bit more.
Right.
Lauren has a lot more experience with doing the online language apps. But yeah, I would say, like, generally we were able to communicate, and really, I think, it's just level of patience, like, on both sides. If they have a level of patience and we do, then we can.
Yeah, it's also humility. We are in France, so the idea that we don't speak the language, we have to come with a level of patience on our side for the fact that French is the language we are speaking in France. So we are trying our best to accommodate or assimilate into that, because this is France. Speak French here.
Exactly. Yeah. How have you found French people? Because there's this stigma in North America that French people tend to be somewhat rude. How do you think has that been the case, or have you found them more welcoming than?
We're from Philadelphia, so
Next question.
Okay.
there's a level of like. I don't want to say the word aggression, but there's a level of like understanding in Philadelphia. You keep to yourself, and if people are within your circles, like, you're going to meet more people and network, and they may be rough around the edges at first, but generally they're welcoming, and especially once you get to know them. And I feel like the same. I'm going to say the same here, because it's just different. There's a I would say maybe a misconception with France, at least in our opinion, that...
No, I think you're right, actually.
Yeah, there's a level of like rudeness, but we haven't experienced that, at all, I would say, and definitely not to the degree that we hear about it, in the United States.
I consider it a really, like, a best kept secret, to be honest, because I think that coming here and people anticipating that maybe taints their experience, but if you come here open-minded and say, okay, well, I'm not, mostly if I'm going on vacation, I'm not traveling to make a best friend, I'm traveling to see a new place, and then experiencing it and having zero negative interactions can really change your mind and open you up to that.
Yeah, no, that's great. What has been the difference between living here and living in Philadelphia in terms of how you get around and some of the activities maybe that you've done already here versus how do you find that experience so far? I mean, I know it's fairly early, but
Yeah, so we have no car here, so that's a really big difference. Philadelphia does have public transportation that I took throughout college, and it is somewhat reliable, but it's not necessarily accessible. So I would say that if you have access to regional rail, yeah, you can hop on it, and it's not that difficult, but it isn't as accessible as public transportation is here. So I think that's a big difference of getting around either by walking, which we have access to so much stuff within our neighborhood, or hopping on the tram and getting somewhere a lot faster than you would ever anticipate on public transportation. It runs very smoothly.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time when we try to determine how long it's going to take to get from one location to another, we look on Google Maps and it says like 30 minutes, and almost always it takes like half that time for us to
here,
not
here
only
in Nice,
to like
yeah.
walk to the train,
Right.
get on the train, get off the train,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
to the door. It's usually half the time it says it's going to be. So
Yeah. And you've been okay with not having a car here.
yeah, I think honestly, really like after 2020, driving in the United States just got exceptionally like scary. The safety level is just like not there. So I was really looking forward to not having to drive after. Not that we drove a ton in the United
Right.
States because we both work from home, but in being here, I haven't missed it. I mean, it's nice to be able to take things home from the grocery store or go furniture shopping, but for the most part, it's been my nervous system has kind of regulated a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I found that it's a good change of pace for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we, my family and I came here, and we immediately bought a car. There's four of us because we thought, well, how are we going to get around? Because we're from Canada, and it's similar culture to the U.S. where everything is done by car. You barely ever take the public transportation. So when we came here and we bought the car, and I can tell you in the close to 1 year that we've been here, I think I've put gas in it 4 times because we barely ever use it. I mean, I'd rather take the public transportation, the tram, the train, or walk. I mean, it's such a walkable city, in my opinion, that it's been really, you're right. I mean, there's no point in aggravating yourself and trying to take the car to go 50 minutes away and then
Park.
take you 15 minutes to park. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. How do you find the prices in comparison to the U.S. and is there any that's surprised you so far?
I mean, I think there's been a lot of things that are surprising in different ways. So
Okay.
I think one misconception when folks move is like, everything is so cheap or everything is so this, and it's just different. We found grocery prices, again, fluctuate, great access to grocery everywhere we go. We can get food everywhere. We have a giant market 2 minutes from us, outdoor market.
2-minute walk from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no issue with getting access to it, but some things are different because of the seasonality of the groceries. So it's going to be more expensive if I'm getting something off season. I think phone and internet is the thing that took us out. That really, we were just like, what is going on? We keep telling everybody we meet how much we were paying for our phone and internet because they can't believe
How much were you paying in the U.S.?
Collectively for our telephone line and our internet, a little under $200.
$200 in the U.S.
A month. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here
Just for internet and
2 phone lines.
2 phone lines. Okay.
Yeah, and here it's about half. So
Yeah.
every time, she was joking when we were talking earlier, but every time we've talked to people who are either providing the service or like in passing, I have to like ask a couple times just to like make sure.
Yeah, he's having a hard time believing that that's the only thing we're getting. Are we going to be charged for anything else? And they're like, actually, these come with subscriptions. And we're just like, what? We get Netflix with this? So I think that's a big a big deal. As far as housing, I think that that's probably like rent and I don't have a mortgage here, so I don't know, but I think that's probably really up to what you're getting and where you're located. I think that the prices here compared to Philly are still lower.
Really? Okay.
Just we have a super low, like super affordable mortgage. So for us, it's a decent equivalent, but I think other people living in the center city of Philadelphia would say it's much more affordable here.
In different parts of the United States, even, I'm sure it's different for.
Yeah, exactly. And then insurance, health insurance, of course. We are not on French health, like socialized health insurance yet because we just
You have to be here a minimum of 3 months before
months,
you apply for your health insurance.
Right, and we also haven't even heard back about our visa, so we're still very
We
much.
validated our visa, we're waiting to hear back.
We're in
for
the early steps of that, so that track will start soon, hopefully. But we had to buy insurance before coming here to cover us for the year, and it was $2,400.
Yeah.
$2,400 for both of you together.
Yeah.
For the year.
For the year.
Yeah.
And
how does that compare to the insurance back in?
Well, I mean, even that was supposedly like a premium price for what we paid. I mean, it could have been less if we'd gotten less coverage or pre-existing.
Scott was a
conditions.
little bit wanting to
I
get a little more
prepared.
Over-prepared
Just in
and probably
case.
you didn't get the basic coverage you got.
Right.
Yeah.
And back in the United States, we were paying $700 a month.
$700 a
each of
month.
us. Like, I'm not
Wow.
for total. So,
Oh, for two of you. Okay.
Yeah, which
Okay.
is
So
still-
$350 each.
and that's not including visits there. That's not including medication. That's just to have access to what we had access to.
Yeah,
So
just to have insurance
Wow.
because we were self-employed. So
And and that's even before you've applied. So once you've been here 3 months, you get to apply to the Puma coverage here in France, and after you get that, usually takes another 3 or 4 months after that. So I would say between 6 and 8 months after you're here, you'll get covered for 70% of basically any doctor's visit, dentist visit, and you should be able to get a mutuelle, is what it's called, which is a top-up insurance for, I would say, less than half of what you're paying now. So I mean, the prices that you guys are paying now, the $2,400, that's going to go again. It's going to be cut at least in half within the next year. So
yeah, which is it's really wild. That's a big deal. I think a big deal, particularly to other people from the United States. It's hard for us. We actually were talking about this with our neighbor, and we were explaining like everyone gets access to health care.
right.
And he was like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, not like they don't have to have a job. They don't have like, it really is hard to think about for people who have never had access to healthcare that's not tied to their job or at least suitable and adequate healthcare.
I would say it's almost like you have to prove beyond the benefit of a doubt that you need X, Y, and Z to get any kind of additional help. And here it's kind of the opposite. It's like, it's assumed that you're going to get that help. And then if you want additional stuff, like you're saying, you can always get it if you want.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's great. Great. Okay. How was your experience finding a rental?
Oh, I think our experience finding a rental maybe shouldn't even be documented because it was so good that people might have unrealistic expectations.
Well, and that's why we're going to have a lot more of people like yourselves coming on the show. So, I mean, obviously every experience is different.
Yeah, we're starting out strong here.
Yeah,
though.
you're starting out strong. Man.
We landed on a Wednesday, and on a Thursday we met with you.
That's right.
And on that Thursday we saw the place that we ended up taking.
Yeah.
So, or that ended up accepting us. I don't want to say we took. We
That's
both
true.
had a mutual agreement, and they chose us to live there. So.
No, we did start that process though a few weeks beforehand.
Right. And you had this in mind, and
Yeah.
Scott jokes because he said like, can we maybe push it back or maybe meet up with you guys? And you were like, no, I think we should do it today.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy we did.
yeah, and I'm super happy we did.
Yeah.
I think again, part of that timeline was getting here before things got too wild with the amount of tourism and just summer in general, businesses, etc. So I think that definitely helped our process, but we saw some good places.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have seen more, only because I'm nosy and I like to know what's out there, but the place that we got is amazing, and I feel like we felt really good about that decision. We felt really excited when they picked us back.
Yeah, sure. I should say, so yeah, we started the process of gathering information for Scott and Lauren probably, I would say, was it a month before you guys arrived? Mm-hmm. So about a month before they arrived to Nice, we started gathering the information, getting their dossier together, and even though we weren't specifically looking at I wasn't specifically looking at properties for you, I always have a list of the people that I know are going to be coming to France in the next 2 or 3 months, and when I'm visiting properties with other clients, I'm always making sure that, if that particular client doesn't like the property that I'm showing them, I have in the back of my mind, who would this property be suitable for. So we, I think, I would say probably 2 to 3 weeks before you guys arrived, we started thinking about, okay, what kind of properties can we show you, and what properties have we already seen with visiting other clients, that if they didn't take that property, then we could potentially have it as a backup for you. So I think it's the planning worked out really well. We were able to that property that you guys had, it actually only had been on the market, I think, for less than 2 weeks before you arrived. And I know I had 2 clients that came to see it with me, and they said, no, we prefer a furnished place, and they wanted something with an elevator. So you guys being young, I thought, you know what, I think this property will match your description.
Yeah, and I would say, it didn't.
It doesn't meet everything, because I think that's
all of our criteria. But after seeing it and being there and kind of understanding that that might not happen no matter what place we look at.
I think we were also open to that in general. I think we knew kind of what to expect from staying in Airbnbs, from watching YouTubes and stuff, seeing other people move into places and understanding okay, elevator, air conditioning, this, that, furnished, and furnished to my taste also, which is another aspect of it can be furnished, but I might not like the furnishings. And I had that conversation, what do we do? And you're like, oh, it has to stay here or you have to store it. Yeah. Okay, that's another thing that I didn't know, but that maybe changes someone's mind on if you're going to do furnished. So I think knowing that we were going to have to be flexible either way, and what we were going to be willing to negotiate on, both of us working from home, having that office space and extra space to work is essential. Right. So not having an extra bedroom would have been harder than walking up our 71 steps every day.
Is that how many there are? 71 steps?
I think we counted 71.
Yeah. So for our audience, it's the place that we found for Scott and Lauren. It's a 3rd floor apartment. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it doesn't have an elevator, but it's a really beautiful building. In my opinion, it's a gorgeous building, and it's the nice thing about being in an older building. You have more space. The apartments tend to be a lot larger, both in terms of dimensions, but also in height as well.
Yes, so, the high ceilings, the light that we get there, and we don't have
the terrace.
We don't have air conditioning yet, and I know that that's kind of like a running joke amongst people who come from the United States. We have to have access to air conditioning. Right. Okay, it's nice not to be sweaty in your home, but but also I think we're getting used to how we want to air out our apartment, how we want to use the light or use the shutters to prevent the light from coming in. So we waited on a few of those conveniences. We didn't go out and say we need to get an air conditioning. We don't have a dishwasher right now. We don't have a dryer, which people keep asking us if we have it.
And that's not a common thing.
Our friends keep asking us, and I keep trying to explain to them that that's not a common thing, but they're like, well, are you going to get one? Yeah. It's not necessary.
It's not a necessity. Yeah.
So we're kind of trying to figure out what a necessity looks like for us in this new place before we go out and try to replicate what we were living before.
Right. Yeah.
I'll say too. We haven't. we didn't bring any furniture, any kind of like heirlooms with us. Like everything that we brought fit into 8 suitcases, and then we had our 2 cats in their carriers, and that was it. So we are kind of starting from scratch in that sense, but it is freeing because then we're not like, well, we can't fit that there, or like this isn't going to quite look like we can furnish the apartment to how we want based on the space.
Yeah, and how the apartment asks to be furnished.
Yeah, I think the key for you guys has been that you were very flexible, and that's really great. I think that's one of the things that we really want people coming to Nice to know, that it is in the U.S., unfortunately, so you're not going to get the same type of accommodations that you would get in the U.S. So you do have to have some level of flexibility because, you know, I mean, it's rare that you have an apartment with 2 bedrooms and 2 baths, for example. That's not a thing here. Unfortunately, it's typically 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and only when you get to a 3-bedroom apartment do you maybe see a 2nd bath. So things like that definitely are different. But yeah, no, the flexibility was key, and I think that really helped you guys in securing that place. And I mean, do you think that you gave up a lot of things that you wanted?
You found me something with a bathtub. Yeah, you just kept saying bath, but I was thinking about the fact that I have a bathtub. We couldn't not have an elevator and not have a bathtub. Okay. So that was really like the I'm like, oh man, there's no elevator. And we get up there and you showed me that bathroom and I was like, that's a bathtub.
It's your reward for climbing up the
stairs.
Yeah,
I need my reward for climbing up the stairs. So yeah, I think I don't feel like we truly had to compromise that much. Right. And like you're saying, people who are coming here are hopefully looking for an experience that's different from the experience that they've had. Yes. And I think dropping those expectations, of course we want creature comforts, and I don't think France has any shortage of creature comforts. There's plenty of comforts here. It's just, it might be different, and breaking down those habits or those expectations, and that's what we did. I was just like, okay, this is how that works, then I guess it works that way. I accept it. So that's a big part, not fighting it.
Yeah, I feel like on different Facebook groups that we've joined, and
we've never been on Facebook more, by the way.
Oh, you've been more on Facebook now since you've been here?
No, just in general, this whole process. Like we weren't actively on Facebook, and then I was like, I think we have to get on Facebook.
Yeah. And so it's helped, right? Because you've got a lot of different groups that can
a lot of the
support each other.
Groups have helped with their anecdotal stuff, asking about different processes, where to go in the stage that they're at for their visa.
Okay. Yeah.
But I was going to say, in relation to that, the amount of people that we've seen on there asking about, like, basically, how can I take my entire existence in this other country and transport it here? And how much did that cost me? And I think they have the wrong idea about it, because it's not, not for us at least, that's not what it's about. It's about
going. You should take the opportunity to downsize, to declutter, and
to learn new experiences.
Just have new experiences. I think you can continue doing that where you're at, but what's the point of
exactly
transition?
The change is the great part about it, right? Yeah. Right. Nice. How have you found the process of furnishing the apartment?
Fun.
I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, we definitely have been. We sourced a lot of different areas before purchasing things, which, again, only being here for 7 weeks feels like a very short amount of time. But you don't want to be sleeping on the floor for 3 weeks.
So. It was only 2 nights.
Right. So we did a pretty good job of that, I think, and it's been fun too, seeing the different styles and like what's readily available. And just being more deliberate about what we choose and don't choose, because we want to make the most of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, slowly picking out things. We still don't have nightstands, which is a little bit annoying, but I'm using the box from our espresso maker as a nightstand right now. So it's working out, but just those types of things we didn't want to, or I personally didn't want to rush into buying. Even in the States, we are not people who typically like buy a lot of new things. So I think that also made the transition easier. We don't go out and buy a lot of stuff on a whim. Right. we were very intentional when we were buying stuff for our own home. We are at the point now where we don't need to, there's no Target here, but
There was an IKEA, so that's...
and we don't need to go to IKEA and get the cheapest and whatever, just to have it, just to know that we have it. We have the security in knowing something good will come up when we're looking for it, and we can survive until then.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but you've been to Cap Tramiel, right? The big mall. That's on the edge of the town.
Oh, we've been to
Have you been? There's just beside that mall actually. There's a large furniture group of stores where they have everything from like complete stores that specialize in beds, in art, in various pieces of furniture.
No, we haven't made it over there yet.
We spent a long time getting our internet hookup when we were there last
Yeah,
time.
the internet.
we didn't make it very far out of the area.
Yes, we should say Scott and Lauren had a bit of difficulty with the first provider that we went with called Free Mobile. It is for sure one of the lower cost providers. You can get internet with free for, I think it was like $25 a month, right?
Yeah, I think
Something
the two
like that.
phones and the internet, it was 75.
But that
Two phones,
came,
internet.
and that came with like subscriptions and
Right.
And I will say too, like I don't know if it's necessarily a fault of free.
Right.
It could be the age of the building and the communication between that and whoever. But
and shipping the hardware. It was a lot of things, but working from home, we couldn't.
that was
Because you're both online people and you need internet right away. The issue was basically they weren't able to get the hardware for the connecting to the internet. So the modem didn't arrive, and we had called multiple times, and you had called and chatted online.
Lots of translation.
So unfortunately, we had to switch out, and you went with Orange. Correct?
Orange, yeah. Then we had from that mall visit to our internet being connected was like 5 days.
Yeah, and they handed us the hardware
They gave
in
it to us in
store.
Exactly.
So that was
Oliver's suggestion.
that was why we were like, okay, we can do this. I said, oh, they have the box already here. We don't have to wait for it to potentially get shipped. So I think that made it an easier transition to that.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. So the point I think we wanted to make is that not all services are created equal, just like everywhere. But I think there's a place for free mobile as well. Once you have things set up, and I think I know a lot of people that have free mobile, and they're happy with it. But that customer support I think is a bit on.
Customer support was difficult just because of the language barrier, I believe, but the actual customer service we received at all of these places were
In person was actually.
we had no issues with that, and it wasn't that issue. It was just
I think a disconnect between like what we were trying to achieve versus what they were able to do. So
Nice. What would you guys do differently in hindsight now after you've gone through this experience and you're here? You've only been here for less than 2 months now, but is there anything you would have done differently?
Differently, it's kind of hard to say, just because, like you said, the timeline, we're still, very new here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think having more time to have done some of the maybe sparsing out of like what we wanted to keep before we moved, and
the packing and
the donations, all that kind of stuff. But within the time frame that we had, I feel like we were pretty deliberate about what we did do.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, there's certain things at the end of the day that maybe have gotten misplaced or didn't make it on the trip. Just having time for that, I think, would have made the transition a little bit easier.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely the only thing. I feel like everything worked out beyond what we even felt like would work out. So again, I'm saying this, and like I hope people do get their expectations up actually, and I hope they do feel confident in making this decision and putting the work in behind it.
Yes.
I agree with Scott. The only thing I would have done differently is maybe started selling and or figuring out where I wanted my stuff to go earlier. If I would have done that over our like New Year's break instead of trying to have my last, days of not working on 17 different projects. just, hey, oh, who wants this mirror or whatever, something like that to make me feel more confident in that process. But I think part of it felt okay because it was happening so quickly. I make a joke that things were disappearing every single day, multiple times a day. I would go to set a glass down somewhere and there was no longer a surface for me to set it on. So part of that was a good thing. And then the other half was, it was a little bit stressful. So
yeah, it forced us to make decisions on the fly, which is hard. For me specifically, I have a lot of like decision-making issues, but I think that was
It's
great
hard.
exercise.
It's a life change.
oh yeah, he's getting a lot of exposure therapy right now to the decision making.
How about the pets, the cats? Was that process getting their documents and everything? Was that relatively easy for you, or how?
The process was easy.
Okay.
The execution of it after we had done all what we could do, that's where things kind of like fell apart a little bit.
It was a failure. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
There was a failure on our vet side of that.
Okay.
So I think going back to the internet communication things, like miscommunications can happen in your country of origin as well. So
Which are outside of your
Control. Right.
And I think that's really like, we had a lot of exposure to that prior to moving, and now that we're here, it's like, oh, yeah, it's an issue, but like we're here. So it's not as big of a deal. You know, we'll figure it out at some point.
But the day before we left, we had to have a friend go drive 2 hours to pick up a certificate so that our cats could get on the plane.
Like a vaccination certificate?
It was yeah.
The issue was, so there's a number that is for European countries in the European Union that each cat has to be identified by, each animal has to be identified by.
Okay.
And that number is 15 digits long. So
It's like a serial number, basically.
serial number, yes, their social security essentially.
Yeah.
One of the numbers on one of the cats was incorrect.
I see.
And so that delayed it on the processing part. And then, I was calling a couple weeks out, a couple days out. And our vet kept reassuring us, like, they usually send these things out very close to your flight because they're only good for X amount of days. And I said, okay. And then when Sunday came around, I said, well, I know in Pennsylvania, there's nobody doing work on a Sunday. We could get our paper processed maybe on Monday, but it would have to be shipped on Monday in order to arrive in time for our flight.
The next day.
So I called. I eventually got in contact with the direct person who handles that, and he let me know that was the issue. And yeah, we were able to call a friend. Happened to be off that day, which was great.
Because we didn't have a car anymore.
Yeah,
our
we
car
sold
was
our
already
car
sold.
the previous Friday. So either taking an Uber or public transportation out there, it would have been a whole, whole thing. So
Yeah, so that was stressful, but it was such a short period of stress, again, among all the other things. And once she showed up with the paper, then it was over. Like, we have it. But yeah, I think I felt really prepared before that and really prepared after that. It was just that 24-hour period.
And just for so the people watching know, that paper, although they used it at check-in, that was the one time. All that work, all that frustration, they checked it when we checked into our initial
The paper
flight.
for the two cats?
Yeah.
And then at no other time during our connecting
No one
flight
in
or when we
France.
got
Nobody even looked at it?
No.
Okay.
But we had
we might be an exception in that, but I just wanted to point that out because it was very,
And so you started that process to collect all the information for the cats. How long before you departed?
Probably 3 months just to know what the timelines were, and then the actual checkup for them to submit the work was maybe a month before.
Yeah, so then 30 days before is when it triggered that. And our pets had to have a rabies vaccination, had to be clean bill of health, and had to have the EU compliant microchip. And so we had all those things 30 days before, and then a couple days after that, our vet sent the paperwork, which could have arrived anywhere between 10 days and 24 hours, I guess, before our flight, which does cause a lot of people stress. And I have seen people who have said, oh yeah, we couldn't do it. Someone else had to fly our pets because they didn't get their paperwork.
Okay, wow. So that's a process that you need to take into account.
Just be
A few, 2-3 months before you leave.
Yeah, so we didn't have to get passports for children, but we did have to do this for our cats.
Which is probably just as difficult, yeah. Wow. How are they adjusting? How are the cats adjusting in the new house, in the new apartment?
I mean, overall, I think they're doing pretty good for
Yeah.
not being in the same
Okay.
place that they were for 5 years. And,
You guys will have to send us a couple of short videos.
Oh, sure.
Maybe we can add
We
them.
have lots of
We'll add them
pictures.
to the podcast so that people see the
This is pretty much as close as they will get to one another. For the sake of the sun.
where are we, baby cat?
I don't think I've even seen them.
Even today, they were just lying in the sunbeam, the same sunbeam.
No, really?
They're not bonded, so they don't really like to be near each other, but they were
okay.
on the same sunbeam in the same
They like
room.
doing the same thing.
Yeah, they love
at
all the same
time.
things. They have all the same hobbies, but they
Yeah.
don't like each other. So it's fun, and I think it's the biggest change for them is going to be not having any access to outside. They are not outdoor cats. They're indoor cats that we would let go sit in the grass under supervision in our backyard. But I started growing cat grass already for our balcony, like just in a little container so that they can
Be out there,
Yeah.
enjoy a bit of air.
get some fresh air, eat some grass, even though they're not supposed to, and run this.
I actually have seen people walk their cats here.
Well, we had a stroller in Philadelphia, so we might have to get another stroller.
Yeah, I don't think that's odd anymore because now I've seen it. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's very pet friendly here, but most
Yeah,
of
it
those
is.
pets are dogs. But
Yeah.
we can change that.
Yeah, you can change it. Why not? Exactly. All right. Well, that brings us to my last question, and that is, what would you recommend for others wanting to go on this journey? Give me, and I want to hear both of your opinions on, what would you tell friends that maybe have considered this and really haven't taken it seriously? Is it something that you think people should try? If it's something that's in the back of their head, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already seen kind of some of the rewards of doing it and just being here. It's again, I keep going back to the location. The location's beautiful, but the people have been great. Different way of life, different way of thinking. I think that we were able to. We're both very flexible in general, so I think it made that transition not too difficult.
Right.
But I would say, if you're serious about it, really put the time and really put the work into it, because even with knowing everything that we know, there's certain things we would have done differently, maybe submitted things earlier, put less emphasis on other things,
Right.
but really get like an understanding of like, this is a life change. It's not a visit. It's not, you're not here for a vacation. I mean, some people maybe, but in our case,
And you're both continuing to work,
yeah,
and I mean, you're not planning on retiring here, so
right. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say just if you're serious about it, really do your research and make sure it's something that you want, because it is time consuming, but it is there's rewards.
rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lauren.
Yeah. That was kind of going to be my answer, is to take it seriously. But I think maybe I'll switch to, if you're in a partnership or if you're moving with someone, not even your partner, maybe another family member or a parent, play to one another's strengths and really communicate, because as you've heard, it was a short timeline. Things get stressful. Moving is stressful no matter where you're going. It does not matter your timeline. It is exhausting. So knowing each other's strengths, and I tease Scott because he's a check-in person, but I would open my eye and he would be like listing out all the things that he was going to do for the day. I'm like, I haven't even left bed yet, and you're telling me the 50 things that you need to get done by the end of the day. But really opening up, who's handling this? Who are we talking to? Who are we asking for help? And I guess maybe that's one more thing. If you're doing it by yourself or with a partner or with a family, leaning on the friends and family and community that you have and asking for help, because asking for help from your community is also participating in your community. Being a good community member is reciprocal. So you've probably helped the people around you in the past, and it's a nice chance to let them help you accomplish something. And we had a really good time and connected with so many people we love very much through this process, and we feel very supported by them. So communication, working to your strengths, and knowing when to ask for help.
Yeah, I don't think we would have been able to do it, number one, like she was saying, without one another. I think we definitely played on each other's strengths for this whole process, but also without the community that we had. Yeah, it was just a very stressful, but also great and reaffirming experience.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm assuming you found it a positive experience, right?
Yeah.
It's been something that you wouldn't mind taking again, right?
No, I think maybe give me a few months to recover, but yes, I feel like we could do this again and survive, and I think I would do it all over again. I think it was completely worth it. That's
great. No, I'm really happy. I'm glad that you guys took the time to come today and share your thoughts and your experience. And it's really been great knowing both of you. And I'd love to have you back maybe in a year time.
Oh yeah, the update.
Yeah, to get a 1 year update.
We'll bring the cats.
Bring the cats. Yeah,
they'll be trained to go on the tram and everything by then. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah. Enjoy the apartment. Enjoy Nice, and thank you both for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, guys. That's our first podcast. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more experiences from guests like Scott and Lauren. And we'll try to have different demographic groups and different age groups so that you can get a feel of how it's like to move to Nice and really just enjoy this beautiful lifestyle that we have here in southern France. So thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you back soon.